Today on Passing the Torch, we're going to be interviewing Mr. Charles O'Neill. He is the president of the Texas Association of African American Chambers of Commerce in Austin, Texas. Thank you, Mr. O'Neill, for coming in today.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
Thinking about it.
Oh, absolutely. I have to. First time I'm doing this, I had to come talk to you because you're a man I highly respect. You're a man that's been in Dallas. I mean, you're very informative. You got, you're my dad. Met. Anytime my dad knows somebody, he speaks highly of them. I have to talk to him. I just want to talk about your role with the TAACC in Austin and what you do.
Well, the Texas Association, real briefly, Texas Association of African American Chambers of Commerce is a statewide organization, and it is, for description, the umbrella organization for the state's 22 black chambers of commerce. My job, as I see it, is to be the most effective spokesperson for the interests of black-owned businesses across the state. So whether they are in the Panhandle or the Piney Woods in East Texas, or those few brothers and sisters down on the Gulf Coast, no matter where black folk live in the state of Texas, there are going to be some unique challenges faced by those folk who are in business. Our state, despite being one of the fastest growing black populations, or we're at literally the fastest growing black population among the 50 states, still has not been as hospitable to the interests of black-owned business. Again, despite having, for nearly 20 years, one of the fastest rates of business formation among African Americans. Texas has been a leader nationally among startups, but we've been flatlining or declining revenue in some cases. And so my job is to make sure that the issues that are unique, the challenges that are unique to black-owned businesses stay top of mind for those folks who control markets or control access to markets. And then to be as helpful to those black chambers of commerce in those individual markets who may be experiencing pushback or opposition, raw opposition in some cases, at city council or at the county court level, to be as helpful to them from our experience in engaging in other markets. And so something that may be helpful at the Dallas City Hall may not be a direct benefit to those folks living in Ector County in West Texas. But the experience base should yield us the same results. And so our goal is to make Texas #1 in opportunity for black-owned businesses. But ultimately, and I'll say this and just kind of put a capstone on it, ultimately, we're in the quality of life business. Because when our businesses are successful and profitable, black businesses hire black people. When black families are made whole, we buy homes, we buy cars, we contribute to the tax base in the cities in which we live. And when we've got money, we can make better decisions on healthcare, on education, on all the things that make up what we call life. We can do it better when we got money. And at the bottom, because much of what we do, particularly during a legislative session, is geared toward recouping our taxpayer investment and our return on our taxpayer investment. At the current time, state of Texas in its last budget spent nearly $19 billion, $18.8 billion for goods and services. Black folk earn 1.22% of that spending. We're about 15% of the population.
Can you repeat those stats again?
The state spent $18.8 billion. Black businesses earned 1.22%. And for the first time in the last budget, Asian Pacific Islanders earned more money from the state.
O'Neill, can you share how TAACC is affecting Texas black-owned businesses in your role or the organization's role from a legislation standpoint?
I can, Chris, and just for shorthand, we call it TAC.
Okay.
So
TAC. We like that. Okay, cool.
Texas
cool.
Association of African Americans, we call it TAC. This session, there is significant movement in the bill that's going to catch fire and will probably be passed that adds disabled Texans to the statute governing quote unquote historically underutilized businesses. A statute that was created, as you could imagine, at the behest of black legislators 30 years ago. The intent of the legislation, of course, was to provide, and we'll say, ethnic minorities, because Hispanic legislators assisted in implementation of the bill. First, they added white women. Last session, in 15, disabled veterans were added. My father was a military veteran, so clearly we have no opposition to disabled veterans. But the facts are, as the statute was written to address the unique challenges of an aggrieved class, that is black folk and brown folk, who you can look at reams and reams and reams of legal precedent of their having been discriminated against. There is no such finding that disabled veterans have been denied access to opportunity based on the fact that they are disabled veterans. Moving forward to this session, the same can be said about disabled persons, that there is no court finding that a person was denied an opportunity to engage in contract with the state of Texas based on their having a disability. So the net effect of the legislation, in both cases, disabled veterans and disabled persons, is if the aggrieved classes are black, Hispanic or Latino, Asian American, and white female, you would be one of those if you were a disabled veteran.
Absolutely.
So if you had disabled veterans, what if you had white males? And so the same is true of this disabled bill. And so now we've got this dilution of the intent of the original legislation, and we're already at 1.22%. That's egregious.
Absolutely.
That's fundamentally un-American, that a group of tax-paying citizens have no expectation, virtually, of again recouping a return on their taxpayer investment. That's the battle. It is intense. It is close combat. There aren't many friends, as you can know. There are 17 black folk in the 150-member House, and there are 2 black folk in the 31-member state Senate. So we're not going to numerically be anybody. And so to get our issues front and center, that beyond those social service and education, those things that evoke a knee-jerk response. Everybody's for education, everybody's for health care, equitable access to health care. But when you start talking about that money, you lose friends very quickly. And so our fight is one that we certainly invite as many allies as we possibly can get. But it's even difficult to get black legislators to stay engaged, particularly those who've been in the legislature for 2 decades. They say, man, I fought that fight. I'm tired. But again, against the backdrop of this burgeoning black population and this heightened increase in the numbers of black folk wanting things, it's going to be critical. As Texas gets less and less white, if you lock in or lock out folk going forward, when we've got this increasingly black population or increasingly brown population, and then there's no access. So who's going to be building roads in 2040 if we've got codified that you can't get in? And so that's the fight, and so
I would say, so as taxpayers, so on one end, you have the legislators, that we vote for, and it's supposed to be representing, the things that we want implemented and to help us to fix this 1.22%, issue. I would like to say, how do African Americans or blacks, educate ourselves, or what do we need to do on our behalf to help, have more black entrepreneurship and help fight the fight in which our supposedly legislators are trying to do for us.
I think, and that's a great question, and a great place to jump off into a larger discussion. I take, probably to a fault, I take very personally the way black folk utilize our money resources. If our labor is of decreasing value in the marketplace, then there are just too few tools at our disposal. Our consuming power clearly is what we're quote unquote respected for. We buy lots and lots of stuff, right? Absolutely. And so we're imparted markets to virtually every industry that is in the marketplace, from selling gasoline to selling clothes, to selling apartments, to selling homes. We play that cushion, the bottom line, because, and I'll get into my years and years and years of the newspaper business, they don't ask us to come buy their stuff. So when they earn $1, that they don't have $1 expended to attract, they got free money.
Right.
And so we have been such willing consumers of all kinds of goods and services, from premium liquors to premium cars, that we have provided them this just oil well gusher of free money that they can use to sponsor auto races. They sponsor tennis matches or 5K races, but never get back to supporting the market from which they extracted that money resource. And so all of that to say, we've got to be more careful about the way we use our money resource. So the interest in buying black is not just a cute catchphrase. It's a real intensified, in millennial terms, intentional way of focusing our financial resources in a way that get the shortest route back to benefiting our communities. So when I talked to the president of Unity Bank in Houston, and we know that Bank Black Initiative got really caught fire around July, and Unity Bank was about $40 million, $47 million. And then in January, I talked to him, and Unity Bank is now, for the first time in its history, with over $100 million in deposits.
Wow, that's
We
amazing.
know that social media can be used to fire up or educate or activate a consuming base. So what would that do to, I love to say this, Robert's Ready Wear on Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard here in Dallas, 55, 56-year-old black-owned men's store. What if 300,000 black men decide they weren't going to the Suit Warehouse, which is owned by somebody who does not look like us and really only cares about you coming in the door and buying their clothes, if we all spent their money with Robert's Ready Wear? Well, they would have 15 stores. Current lamentations in our community say that we've got to alleviate food deserts. We need a grocery store. Grocers aren't necessarily eager to invest in bricks and mortar in our communities because they already getting our money.
Right.
Because we'll drive 20 miles to go to a Whole Foods if you want to identify it. We'll go wherever it is.
Right.
And so, again, when I moved to Dallas 100 years ago, there were black grocery stores. Small,
Right.
needs to say, but effective in that they brought convenience to the closest to the neighborhood. If 40 years ago we had embarked on the course of supporting them, we don't know what could have happened, except we know they'd still be viable.
Right.
They'd still be in business, and they would have. And my note I want to say about that is, besides those people hiring the people who live in those communities, they send their children to school. You know, so we should be benefiting from those folks coming back, knowing that they got their start.
Right.
So we be cycling new commitments to black-owned business.
Right.
So that's I think more than anything, to be supportive of the work that we do, if we're more careful about when and where we spend our money, and not do it as a cute campaign. We're gonna go do a blackout someplace, or we're gonna go and do a Black Restaurant Week. Well, every week is Black Restaurant Week.
Right.
You know,
It can be.
It should be
Right.
every day. And one side note, not be finished. I'm so cool about it. My children used to come, Mr. Black, 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 Black. That's all you talk about, you know. But that's how important it is.
Right.
And so when we get to a point in our community that we believe that it doesn't make any difference.
How can we control our dollars to positively impact our community?
Just every day, just make good decisions about when and where we spend our money. If we want our dollars spent to benefit our communities, then our first line of offense would be to spend that money with Black-owned businesses. We just have to make sure that we don't relegate that commitment to a 6-week campaign. You know, it can't be Black Restaurant Week. You know, it's every day, because the demands in the marketplace are every day. We're out there, we're spending. There's some things that are, I won't say out of our control, mortgages, other demand payments, but consumer spending, we got a place to spend. You know, and we also, the kickback often is, well, when I get the kind of service that I get every place else, well, if you spend your money, well, you get the kind of service. You know, and so we can't go into our support for Black-owned businesses or our further spending or increased spending with Black-owned businesses thinking that it's going to be a bad experience.
Right.
Because our intention is to make sure that they have enough money to give us good service. Against the historical backdrop of not being able to try on a suit unless you bought it, what's a little inconvenience of bad customer service when you're spending it where it's going to make the most benefit in your own community. So I think that our commitment to utilizing the goods, services, and resources that are available through Black-owned businesses is our first line of offense.
Yeah, one thing I come to learn as well, sometimes we don't like to sacrifice. You know, we are so quick with convenience. Sometimes in order to support our own, to get to where we're at the table, to make more a powerful impact, sometimes we have to sacrifice, you know, driving a little bit further, going out of our way. So I think that's another issue that I think us as a people tend to have an issue with. What do you think about that?
I think that's a comfortable, convenient, I'll say a reason. It's an excuse. When our communities were circumscribed by segregation, there weren't options. So we went to Mr. Johnson's store. We went to Ms. Hattie's beauty shop. You know, and so now we live in Frisco, and we say, man, I'm not driving down that stop down. But you're not getting the benefit of your dollar spent when you don't spend it where it makes the most sense for you to spend your money. I'm not saying that that we gotta broadcast it necessarily. I'm saying we gotta make a conscious effort to support the growth and development of Black-owned businesses, because I believe that gives us the best opportunity to exact a return in governance, in, again, healthcare access, in police and fire protection. You think about a friend of ours waited 2 hours for a response from a burglary at his business.
Wow.
Well, they just checked the zip code and said, we'll get there.
Right.
You know, and when I was in the newspaper business, I said, well, sometimes the police would be waiting till the bad guys cleared out before they show up. You know? But we do know that in a municipal setting like Dallas, that resources are deployed as a function of taxes levied from a community. And so poor communities get poor fire response, poor alley service, poor trash collection service, stray dogs, all based in this untethered kind of reason, you know. So again, I think our spending with black-owned businesses changes that dynamic in a way that we've not seen since the time that we could only spend our money with black-owned businesses.
So to wrap up, how can people, black people, get involved with TAC from a monetary standpoint, or if they're trying to aspire to be entrepreneurs? How can they go to your website or contact you to get more involved with that?
Our website is TAACC.org, TAACC.org. We just finished having Black Business Day at the Capitol, had about 400 business owners there. Outstanding support from virtually every black chamber in the state. Support your local black chamber. And if you're not involved, Dallas has been blessed immeasurably in that the oldest black chamber of commerce in the nation was founded right here in Dallas, Texas. Folk don't know that. Why did the stars line up in Dallas, Texas? 5 years after Tulsa was firebombed for having a Black Wall Street, there was still critical core of black businesses in Dallas, enough to need an organization to advance the interests of black-owned businesses. And so in 1926, 9 years later, the Houston Negro Chamber of Commerce was formed. So Texas has a seminal role in black business organizations, and even further, our predecessor organization, the Texas State Negro Chamber of Commerce, was founded in 1936. Wow. So there's 80 years worth of history of black folk being organized to address the very same concerns that we're facing today, unfortunately. So support your local black chamber of commerce, support the businesses that make up the membership of that chamber. And then our offices in Austin, we have programs across the state. We certainly, there's a membership button out there. If you're so inclined and you're Mark Zuckerberg's cousin, we just send a big old check, But I think very clearly that the work that we do on a daily basis, again, is fundamental to a better or an improved quality of life for black folk in our state, is worthy of support.
Mr. O'Neal, one thing I highly respect about you is just how you're a family man and businessman and just your overall good character. I don't know if you're familiar though, I'm friends with your daughter Kristen on Facebook. And a few months ago, she had a post in which I think she had like a car, something happened to her car, and you was on your way from Austin back to Dallas, and you said, hey, let's stop and get your wife a gift. And I think that was pretty amazing. I'm pretty sure you was tired and ready to get back to Dallas, just to, sit down for 30 minutes, relax. So I wanted to ask, how are you able to, maintain a happy, healthy relationship as a husband and a father and a businessman, over the years?
A good fortune. I lucked out. I got a great wife. Right? But in old Black Power School, nation building started with family. Sound, healthy families are the genesis of sound, healthy communities. And if we're talking truly about nation building, then preserving the core, the family, there's no question about it, and so we all know what the disruptions of broken families, if you will, cause, and the extenuating circumstances that derive from discord. So it's more a personal commitment, and I think it's one that certainly has worked for me. Again, I've been very fortunate in that. Like I said, I got a great wife.
Got a good pick. You pick good.
Pick good. I have to leave that one. I say that was divine intervention.
What's some things that kind of stand out, when you were courting or dating your wife at that time?
Well, she, she's a PK, so she would get upset with me about that. She was a preacher's daughter, so we know she was sound, and came from a long marriage, and so if you got that kind of background, the likelihood that you'll get in a tense moment and say, well, let's just go.
Right.
You know, well, if we make a commitment, and that is what the word says, till death do us part.
Right.
You know, if you make that commitment, then
Mm-hmm.
that's what it means.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's not to say that any marriage will be quote unquote perfect. I like to say that I can make my wife do anything she wants to. You know, she allows me to do those things that are important to me. She understands why I have the commitment that I do, and has been supportive of that. And now we're heading for 38 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
And so, you know, you pick good and pay attention.
Mm-hmm. How did you know you were ready to be married?
I don't know that I was,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but again, I'm a big believer in providence. Stuff lines up the way it's supposed to for a lot of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Some of that is out of our control. We think we're driving, but it was time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I'm as good at train wrecks as anybody else, you know.
Yeah, I know. I get a little pressure. In my ear, indirectly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's again, it's critical. The stability, the safe haven, a place that you can go and decompress. It's important to have someone there that is supportive. Is absolutely energizing. So, and then when you was so fortunate, you do know Kristen, and Kristen is remarkable. You know, she's just a bright, dynamic young lady, and so you want to make sure that that you continue to work hard to make a world better for her to experience. You know, so when you add children into the mix, it really makes the efforts that we do on a day-to-day that much more critical. You know, because I'd be as concerned about the future we leave for your children as are my own, because family, community, nation. So I do. The village raising children is real. You know, so if I'm not as concerned about the welfare of your children and anyone else's children in our community, then I've got misplaced priorities. If I'm so selfish, then I'm only concerned about my house.
Right.
And that's the other thing that you get when you understand working together. We achieve a lot more than being selfish.
I think one thing being a young man, sometimes it takes up a bit of a time or lesser time to find purpose and passion in life. You know, what moments in your life, or what was that defining, situation where you found your purpose and passion in life?
Man, I've been very fortunate, Chris, in that all of my responsible adult life, I worked in the hood, so to speak. Almost 20-year career in the black press, in black newspaper, including publishing my own weekly newspaper for about 10 years, to 20 years stacked on top of that in the business of black business. One interesting, I think, life moment, if you will, is I was in the newspaper business, and the last 2 or 3 years I was in the newspaper business, so mid-90s. I had always written a column on all kinds of stuff, but the last couple of years, just economic issues, because the way that money either flowed or failed to flow through our community was getting pretty. It was grabbing my attention. And at the same time, I'd been very active at the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce, and I was chairman of the board at that time, and we actually hosted the National Convention for Black Chambers here in Dallas. And like all good black conventions, the last night is an awards night. We're in a very small hotel, very small room, and it just hit me that if all the black folk organized to advance the interests of black-owned businesses can fit in one small ballroom, in one small hotel, we can use at least one more soldier.
Right.
And here I am, 25 years later, now on the board of the U.S. Black Chamber, and the president of a statewide organization devoted just to that. If I was recommending a course of action to crystallize purpose, I would say first, ask questions. You know, why? You know, the whole, the thing about little children. Well, why? Why? If you don't ask questions, you'll find yourself, unfortunately, in our case, you'll find ourselves supporting activities that really are working against you. And we find ourselves more and more increasingly as we're wooed by the siren song of diversity or collaboration, that we often find ourselves wedded to or married to actions that at their core aren't for your benefit. And so to do the deep introspection, number one, what is you really trying to do? And then if you're engaged in a career track, follow that and see, well, what's the real intent of that? And I thought about that question. STEM is hot right now. You're engaged in it.
Right. It's a hot market.
It's hot. And the ultimate expression of maximum execution of technology is the removal of labor from an industry.
Right.
So if I can deliver products from a warehouse with two hands touching it and replace the work that used to take 100 people, yes, we're operating more efficiently, we're driving the same revenue to the bottom line, but I have materially changed your existence. And, we say, well, technology brings us social media allows us to communicate, and you think about it, this sounds crazy, but on the continent, before the insertion of white folk to the African continent, you could beat a drum in Kenya and deliver a message to Benin on the West Coast.
Oh, wow.
So, we like to think that email is new, but that was a means of communication that we had that was our own. It was technology. We would say small technology now, but it was efficient and effective. So unless and until we're able to determine what the real intent is of this heightened interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and what it means when it's fully engaged to our community. So ask the questions. Ask the questions. Why? What is this about? Why are we doing this? We understand that municipalities are formed, organizations are formed for purposes. And if we find ourselves engaged in perpetuating what those purposes are, well, we know what the start of this deal was, And so disruption is another term common to younger people. Disruption is good. If the foundation of that is something that you inquire about and got a new understanding of, So I think that we have gotten intellectually lazy. We have gotten wedded to one of my favorite unrecognized quotes from Malcolm X. Malcolm X says, to get educated, right? He didn't say get degrees. He said get educated. And folks misinterpret what he was saying. So we got to go and MBA, man, and a PhD. Well, you can be an educated fool. They didn't just come up with that saying, that descriptive. There are literally educated fools. And so what we do know is that of the morass of challenges that we face as black people are all engendered by folk who got degrees. So we know that ain't necessarily, how we solved it. So we've got to make this bifurcation thing and make us understand that education and degrees aren't the same thing. And that the kind of exchange that we're talking about here between old heads, if you will, and the next generation can't be captured in the text. It won't be delivered in the curriculum, but it's absolutely critical to the next step. And so we really have to return to the barbershop, so to speak. We again, if I make an allusion to something that was from the continent, black folk are very communal people. The tribal circle, the council of elders, and that was real, and it's genetic to us. We try to act like it's not, but we do like to get around the table and discuss things, and we can do it innately, and we've kind of divorced ourselves from that and taken on some acculturated traits that are really the product of somebody else's culture and try to embrace them as our own to our detriment. And so it's again, barbershop, man, you can sit in the barbershop when you were 6 and learn a whole bunch of stuff that you weren't going to get out of the textbook. What's the old saying? Such thing as a stupid old black man. Because if a black man got to be old, he had some,
Absolutely.
So to the extent that we can strip ourselves of the acculturation, and I think that probably is the place that young brothers and sisters can begin asking the questions of themselves. Is the intent of all our activity to become black Anglo-Saxon Protestants? Or are we to be our fully formed black selves? Whatever that is. But I think that when we begin or ultimately understand who we are, then we can make better decisions about finance, education. Those things are very important to us. Without the kind of borders that are put on them by only doing work that's important to other forces in the marketplace. So if at the end of all of your work, some stockholders made a whole bunch of money, and you had an increased standard of living.
I think one thing young people fail to realize that, even though we come up with new ideas, it's not necessarily new. We just maybe don't understand our history or educate ourselves about, this is an old concept. Can you share some things that millennials are doing, in a positive manner, and what are some things that, that we're missing that we should, learn about and understand?
Yeah, I think, and I probably should have started my early remarks just this. One of the things that I think benefits our communities is that we're smarter than we've ever been. And notwithstanding my earlier comments about being educated versus getting degrees, babies can work cell phones. We just come out of the womb smart. And so we've got weapons, mental weapons at our disposal that we just haven't put it in the right places, so to speak. And again, that's nothing new. Texas used to pay your tuition if you would go to school in another state. So Black Dallas, in this case Texas, has been suffering from a brain drain for decades. But young people now have experiences that a generation ago or 2 generations ago would have been from studying abroad during undergraduate years to whatever, work that causes them to travel to different cities around the country. But those things stereotypically were not available. And so just the awakening that you get from being able to see and experience other things, stacked on top of this native intelligence, we shouldn't be where we are, which means then that our focus is thrown off. I mentioned earlier that when we lived in segregated communities, we made the decisions that were circumscribed by that geographic boundary. When we focus our intellect, this new brilliance on solving those problems rather than assuming that they've been addressed already, or discovering them and saying, well, this is the fix for it.
Right.
Well, you're building on decades,
right,
centuries in this case,
right,
of real hard work that got to really think about the dynamism in the Black community in Dallas, Texas in the 40s, where there were hospitals and hotels and restaurants and literally. And there were no Black elected officials.
Wow.
Now we got elected officials and no hotels, restaurants, you know?
Or still vacant, or,
you know? And so something, we made some trade-offs that have caused us to, again, be meeting challenges that we really, just, I like to say we disremembered. We disremembered. Black-owned insurance companies that are 140 years old. And then we go by State Farm, or we go by New York Life, when there is a North Carolina Mutual, or Golden State Mutual, or Universal Life, or Atlanta Life. Ours,
right,
Black haircut companies that are bought by Alberta Color.
Right, Revlon,
you know, that's our fault, you know, and so as long as we consciously, and that's back to asking the question, as long as we consciously apply acquired knowledge to solving issues that are unique to our experience, I think we'll be much better, or get better outcomes. That can be, again, from conversations like this, but it can also be when you get out there and get that head bump when you thought you were qualified for that promotion and you realized the only reason you didn't get it wasn't that MBA, it was you look wrong. And we know that that's happening.
right,
You know, and in fact, I talked earlier about this dynamic growth in Black business formation in Texas. I'd say 20% of it is fueled by pink slips.
oh wow,
I'm out of work, so that means I'm an entrepreneur. You know, and so, but we got to use that.
right,
We got to use that energy and capitalize on it. So, ask the questions. Understand that there is nothing new under the sun. That the challenges you face have been addressed. Maybe not to your satisfaction, but don't reinvent it. Glom onto it, and you can do that with conversations like this. And so we're very fortunate. I have always been very fortunate in Dallas that always was embraced, was always the beneficiary of older brothers deciding that young brother, come here, you know. And so Tony Davis was the publisher of the Dallas Weekly. I literally learned not just the lay of the land, but I learned Dallas physically from driving him around town, you know.
I would say, so how do we initiate that conversation, you know, as a young man to someone that we, you know, look up to or we read about, you know, how do we make that initiation? How do we, like, you know, what do we do?
Call him. Stop him in the street, you know. We're fortunate because we do cross paths, you know. And so, but you want to know, you're going to ask the question, well, go ask him. What's he going to say? Man, I don't want to talk to you. They're not like you. You know, they're probably all of them just like me.
Right.
Don't mess around and make me on my mind. You're like, shut up, old man. You know, everybody has a story.
Right.
And again, Black Dallas is, I almost said so unique. It really is not. It's unique to us because we experienced it. But if you go to Black Baltimore, or Black LA, or Black Chicago, you'll find the same kinds of experiences going on. And what we have allowed ourselves to be shunted away from the organic development of our communities.
Mm-hmm.
So there was, again, a time in our history when this kind of interaction was normal.
Right.
It was the deacon and the principal, or somebody in the neighborhood, the man across the street, somebody, the coach, that took an interest in you and said, hey, young brother, blah, blah, blah. So now we're in leagues and we play ball year round and we go to Vegas rather than stopping and talking, and so we really, really, really can do this. And the thing that I'm an eternal optimist anyway, I know we can because we have, and so continue to ask the questions and continue to encourage young brothers and young sisters to stop older generations of folks. And then I'll end my conversation with this, and this is a pet peeve of mine. I told you that I was in the newspaper business for 20 years. I like words.
Mm-hmm.
Words have meaning.
Right.
And I just literally cringe when I see young black people adopting millennial as a descriptive. I think it's good if you're in a particular chronological cohort. I got that.
Right.
You're in the same age group as has been defined by the larger society.
Right.
But if you're a millennial, then you can expect the same outcomes from your labor as others in that cohort.
Mm-hmm.
Since that's not the case,
Right.
then you must not be one of them.
Mm-hmm.
You must be a young black person.
Right.
Cause
Right.
you know what I'm saying? So really, the important first step of self-definition is naming yourself. And so we really, really have to be careful about, again, the ease, the comfort at which we allow others to define. So that means that if I can define you, I can define the expectations of you. So that means if you call yourself this, then you're going to act this way.
Right.
If you don't act that way, into the dungeon with you. Right? And so we really, 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 really have to be careful, ask the questions, be careful about how we allow ourselves to be defined. Because when you hit that door, they're not saying millennial, they're saying that black Chris.
Mm-hmm.
First thing they're gonna say is Chris is a black guy. Young, smart, bright, intelligent, energetic, blah, blah, blah. All that stuff comes later because the first thing they saw, right? And so I think that we can benefit ourselves by being more. Now that's just, like I said, that's just a nitpicky kind of thing for me because I believe words have meaning, and I want to be known for what I call myself, and that's a black man doing good for black people.
That's a great way to do it. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.